Anyone else feel like their lower leg is like slowly being twisted off, or their ankle is slowly being twisted off when they're in this RVH position? It's not very body friendly, is it? That's why today I'm going to give you 3 beginner drills that are going to make the RVH position more comfortable, going to make it easier for you to get in and out of it, even going to make it easier for you to hold when coach decides he's going to do a 5-minute lesson on what exact position he wants you in when you're in the RVH and you're trying to hold it and you're trying not to make the pain face, but inside. Don't do that, coaches. Let us just chill and relax and love life a little. 3 beginner RVH drills coming at you.
I'll let you go, just need some time.
Before we head into the lab to go over the exercises, I just want to go over sort of a little tip or trick, and that is that the position of your skate or pad on the post matters, and it makes a difference into how comfortable the position is. So let's take a look at the 3 different positions and just really quickly at the pros and cons of both. Again, I'm not trying to be your goalie coach and tell you what you should use. Ask your goalie coach what you should use. But I just want to explain the pros and cons of the different positions as a fellow beginner intermediate goalie. Before we get in the lab to go over those drills, I want to just go over the different placement positions for the RVH and explain the pros and the cons of each position. And not trying to be your goalie coach. I'm not telling you what you should do. Ask your goalie coach what you should do, because it depends a little bit on your mobility, on the length of your levers, how long is your tibia relative to your femur, and just depends a bit on your strengths as a goalie. But I just want to explain the 3 different positions, the general pros and cons, so that you have that on your radar. Maybe you can experiment a little and see what works the very best for you. So the first position is skate on post, and it looks like this. So you can see my skate blade is on the post, and this is a nice position because beginner intermediate goalies, we can really push off that post better. It's a lot easier for us to get out of that position. The downside of it is that it adds all this distance to the lever. So for me to get my hip and shoulder into that post, well, it feels almost impossible for me, and it's really pretty uncomfortable on my knee. The next variation is pad on post, or some people call it toe bridge on post, and it looks like this. You can see the toe of my pad is on the post. This is the position that I try to use. I can get my hip and my shoulder in there pretty comfortably. It's definitely harder for me to bump out from, but the position feels just that much more comfortable. The problem with this is, so it's harder to bump out, but also it's harder as a beginner intermediate to kind of slide in and hit that spot exactly where you want it, especially if, there's a lot going on and you're sort of chasing the puck around a bit. It's kind of a sweet spot you need to hit. With blade on post or skate on post, we've got the whole blade to kind of land somewhere, and maybe it's not ideal, but we're going to get something, whereas this one we can really kind of blow it. But even if you blow it, then you're going to land either skate on post or pad inside post. Some people feel like with elastic toe tie, like if they have a skate lace toe tie, they can push off the post pretty well, but they feel like with an elastic toe tie, the elastic just kind of springs and they're not getting much push off. I use the Pro Laces Armor Hybrid, and I don't feel like it springs too much, but I've used other pads that come with stock bungees, and some of them really do feel loose, so I could see that being an issue as well. The third position is pad inside post, and it looks like this. So in this one, you can see that the toe of my pad is right inside the post. Some guys will even get more inside the post than that. I think Tuukka Rask is probably the most famous guy that uses this, although I'm sure there are others. So this one is pretty easy to find. You just kind of slide into the post. But again, the problem is trying to kick out of that position. So there isn't a whole a lot of purchase there. You're kind of deep into the net. I think it's good for guys that have really long levers, because they can do that, and probably they can almost, I don't know if they do or not, but maybe they can almost push off the back of the net when they bump back out. But it will have the least amount of torque on your hip, knee, and ankle, because if your pad is inside the post, well then really now you can just get like right over, you're just right next to that. So that's going to be the easiest one in terms of torque on your hips, knees, and ankles, but it's also going to be probably the hardest one to bump back out of again. Okay, now let's go take a look at what the exercises are. Now we'll get right into the exercises, and one of the best things you can do if you want to get more comfortable in your RVH and be able to get into and out of that position more easily is to improve your hip internal rotation, which is also a key ingredient to the butterfly. So, it's not just for the RVH, but it's an essential ingredient for every goalie to have. And so how do we get that? Well, we're just going to take a really gentle approach. It's a group that you don't want to try to force, because there are other reasons why you might lack hip internal rotation, just your general hip structure. Not everybody has a perfectly symmetrical hip or perfectly balanced hip. Some of us are a little biased towards internal rotation, which is great if you're a goalie. Some of us are a little biased towards external rotation, which is less than great if you're a goalie. So you have to work with what you've got. But this is a really simple technique. As long as you don't force it, it's a really safe technique for improving your hip internal rotation. And it's just a supine hip internal rotation. So you're gonna lie on your back, and you're gonna make your feet just a little wider than hip width. And then you'll pinch your knees forward, but just using like really light pressure to get those knees to come together. So the idea is not to like get your feet as wide as you can and then try to force your knees to come together. That is not the idea. We'll come here, and it doesn't really matter to me if you keep your feet flat or not, because we're trying to work hip internal rotation, not ankle inversion. So your feet don't have to stay flat. We're gonna pinch our knees in together. We're gonna hold that for a count of 5. Then we're gonna just relax. Come back in, hold for another count of 5. Now, if I'm not feeling any stretch at all, which I'm not, then what I can do is move my feet a little bit further apart and then come in again. This is a funny one, because it's not like, when you stretch your quads, it's like, oh yeah, I feel that muscle stretching. Here we're kind of targeting some deeper muscles. So it's not really like, oh, I feel that muscle stretching. It's kind of, I just feel like a stretching sensation, a little deeper in my hip, but kind of around here. And it does feel like a stretch. It doesn't feel like a pinch or pain or just like a block. It feels like there's some give in there. So that's how I know it's okay. If I'm feeling a pinch or a pain, or just like it won't go, then I don't want to force it and I want to ease off it. But I'll go back to holding for 5 seconds, relax. Okay, well actually now that's not really feeling a stretch. So I make my feet a little bit wider and I keep creeping them out. I'm going to do 10 repetitions for a 5-second hold, making sure that it feels kind of like a muscular stretch, not a pinch or a pain or a block. Exercise 2 isn't really a beginner's drill at all, but it's really going to help with the RVH pattern, so I put it in here. I'm using, this is about 1.5 inch super band, and it's attached to my power rack, so something that isn't going to move, and it's actually quite a heavy resistance. Because I'm not using this for resistance in this case, I'm using it for assistance. I'm using it to help control me as I come into my RVH pattern. It's trying to pull me out, so so there's not as much load on my joints. It's also helping to pull me out of my RVH pattern so that you can learn, or your body can learn, how to kind of control that pattern into and out of the RVH. Rather than just always, you know, when you're on the ice, you're kind of smashing into that position, or even if we try to do it slowly like this without the assistant, there are going to be certain parts of the movement which just aren't fluid or aren't comfortable. So then, you know, your body's kind of protecting you and it's not feeling good. But this way, we're reducing the wear and tear on your joints. We're letting your body kind of learn how to do that movement pattern, because it's unlike anything you've ever done before in your life. So why would your body know, oh, these are the muscles I need to use to do this. These are the muscles we need to stabilize. This is how we need to work together. So I keep it slow. The idea isn't to put this on and then smash into your RVH. I know this isn't, you know, exactly how you would do it on the ice, but we're trying to get that so getting down in that half butterfly with the internal rotation, and then we're leaning our body. This is actually hip adduction that we're getting into, and then we're going to work on coming out of that position. And when you come out of it, so think too, like, where would my glove be? Where would my blocker be? Where would I be looking? And when you come out of it, resist the temptation to kind of come all the way over this leg and come up, come down, and then think about using this leg. And again, that's not easy, and the band will help take load off of it, but trying to use this leg to work with this leg to come out of that position. Because when you're on the ice, boom, if you can pop up and then, you know, you're ready to push or do whatever you need to do. Not going to do a high volume of these because we really don't want to add a lot of wear and tear. Do about 4 to 6 repetitions, and the tempo will be about 3-0-3-0 or 4-0-4-0. So 3-0-3-0 would be 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out. 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out. And you would do that on both sides. The last drill that we're going to do is similar but different. We're going to do kind of I call it just a single knee recovery. So you're going to get kind of in an RVH pattern, but not so much lean. So we're a little bit more half kneeling. This foot's in a little bit of a butterfly. Again, not as extreme internal rotation as you would have if you were on the ice, but you're going to just pop out of that position and then come down nice and slow. So we're not trying to smash down like, you know, we're making a save, and you're just resetting. This knee is on a little bit of an angle, or this leg is on a bit of an angle. It's strong too, boom, and you're just almost pivoting to get that foot back underneath you, because again, I think it's a motor pattern to kind of get out of the RVH and to do it as efficiently as you can. You know, sometimes we have to kind of lean over this leg and stand up, but that pulls us off the post and maybe pulls us out of position. So we're just going to practice learning, boom, how to pop up on that leg. And obviously it's going to be a lot harder to do on the ice with your pads on and your skate on, but just to get familiar with that pattern. Again, not a high volume thing. We just want to work that pattern. So about, this could be a drinking game for like, how often does Maria say pattern? Every time she says pattern, you have to chug. Goalies in the whole world would be bombed right now, sorry. But you're just going to do about 6 repetitions in a set for all of these exercises. For exercise number 1, the supine hip internal rotation, just do 1 set, 5-second hold, 10 repetitions. For the second one, the assisted RVH with the super band, you'll do 4 to 6 repetitions using that tempo I told you. You could do probably 2, 3 sets, okay. This one will be 2 to 3 sets, 6 repetitions on each side, popping up and then just resetting, not smashing back down. So those are 3 drills that will really help beginners get a sense of the butterfly. They aren't all beginner drills, so tread lightly, but I think they will really help translate onto the ice and make you feel more comfortable. You will tell me, once you've tried them for a couple weeks, tell me how it feels on the ice by dropping a comment. I'd also super appreciate it if you drop a comment below telling me what gives you trouble with the RVH. Is it, you know, hitting the position you want, whether it's skate on post or pad on post? Is it bumping out? Is it getting out of the RVH? Let me know these things, because that's how I know what videos to make for you guys. I want to make the videos that help you, not just the videos that I think will be cool. So drop a comment in that below. And then the last thing is, guess what I'm going to do? That's right. I'm going to ask you to like this video. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, do that now. If you've already subscribed, hit the bell. And that way you get a notification so you know about new videos when they come out before your goalie partner does, which is always fun. And finally, this is when I say I will catch you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.